Shall we chant Namo Tassa again? Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samha Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samha Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samha Sambuddhassa. All right. So we are today going to go forward with the Metta Sahagata Sutta to complete the part that we have not already completed. Within the Metta Sahagata Sutta, we have gone through the techniques, the usage of samatha and vipassana. Samatha as an individual subject, vipassana or insight meditation as an individual subject. And then both samatha and vipassana in a way that it shifts between the two as a subject as well. We have then come or gone through the 5 perceptions, which is also a technique which is greatly expounded within the Tikandaka Sutta, Tikandaki Sutta of the Anguttara Nikaya, where it goes into greater detail within the way that one would be able to perceive the 5 perceive objects which would usually be festered with the 3 unwholesome roots, being greed, hatred, and delusion, right? But through the altering of perception or altering of perception through wisdom in the way mentioned within these 5, right, one would be able to tackle the habitual greed and habitual hatred which would usually arise. Now that is an extra point that I did not mention, right? So maybe the distraction did give us a benefit then, right? So the habitual greed and habitual hatred which would normally arise, right? So this is a way of interjecting the consciousness, habitual conscious process of the mind in a way that we would be able to develop, stop the commencing or the flourishing of ayonsumanskara or improper attention, and help and support in the flourishing of Yon Sumansikara or right attention. Yon Sumansikara, which leads to now, it is very important to understand with regards to Ayon Sumanskara and Yon Sumanskara. Now, I would, right? If I am in your position, I would, okay, does this mean, we do not cognize in a way, we try to not think in a way that, that is not according to Buddhism? No, this is nothing to do with Buddhism. Of course, the Buddha has spoken of the Yonso and Mansikar techniques, and he has enlightened us on how to better protect our mind for one reason and one reason only. Ayonsu Mansikara brings suffering. Yonsu Mansikara gives us knowledge to deal with reality, right? Gives us the knowledge to deal with reality. People think, a lot of children, a lot of people who do not really understand what this pattern of mansikara or attention is, they sometimes think, okay, this seems a brainwash. No, it's not a brainwash. It is a way of cognizing the same elements that you would usually cognize, but now in a way that it does not cause one grief, sorrow, hatred, anguish, all of these negative mentalities that one would usually face with such kind of an object. Remember, the Buddha, the enlightened beings, and any being in the past who wanted to be enlightened lived in the same world as we do, with the festering organisms of greed, hatred, delusion, the 5 hindrances, the cankers, the ogres, all of these things, right? So it is very much a process of teaching oneself how should, or the mental attitude that one should have in the process of treading on the path of Dhamma, right? That is what the 5 perceptions are all about. 5 perceptions are all about. Then we have gone through the usage of metta, mudita, karuna, upekha, loving kindness, compassion, gladness, and equanimity, and how through the usage of the 5 perceptions, one would be able to awaken oneself through the absorption practices. Through the absorption practices. Now, I think it is quite beneficial for those of you who are following my Abhidhamma class as well, because if you do see, now we are going through similar subjects in both the Sutta and the Abhidhamma class. We are at the moment talking about jhana practices in the Sutta, in the Abhidhamma, and now we are learning about the jhana practices and how we could proceed from the jhana practices, absorption practices into vipassana. So we find ourselves in a very sort of benefiting level at the moment, because we are studying both the Abhidhamma and the Dhamma together, right? Most of us, right? Now, with regards, we touched on the fact that when one practices the jhanas, that when one subdues the hindrances to such an extent, to such an extent, practices the jhanas to such an extent, the hindrances of all names and types. Now, why I say hindrances of all names and types? Because we know as we go through the suttas, we have different names given to different hindrances or disturbances to the wholesome mind. One being the cankers, one being the for example, the anusaya, the pariuttana, vitikama, the kilesas we call in Pali. Then we have the upakleshas. Then we have the pancha nivarana. We have the pancha upadanaskandha. All of these things which sort of bring us some sort of disturbance, or acts in a way that it disturbs the cultivation and growth of samadhi, wisdom, leading to the emancipation of mind. Right? Now, for some of you all who might have joined new, some would imagine, what is this emancipation of mind? What is this emancipation of mind? Very, very normal question. The emancipation of mind comes about with understanding, right? With understanding. A mother does not bother with the annoyances of a baby, does not bother with the rude comments that an ignorant child would spit at her, right? Why? Because we do know better as adults. Now, what is that? That is understanding. Just imagine us being able to have that sort of understanding with the occurrences of the world in a way that we are not distracted. With regards to this distraction is where these types of suttas and practices come in, where this is all about getting rid of whatever distractions that we usually have distracted ourselves by over the years, which has pulled us somewhat away from what reality is. Now, for example, when we sort of um, advise our children, right? If you have children who are millennials, if you have children that are young, they call them the generation Z, right? If you have these kids, they think in a completely different way, right? They think in a completely different way. What's important to them, all of these things are very, very, very different from what we think is right and wrong. right? So the way that they hope to earn money, the way that they hope to work in the future, all of these things, right? All of these things. But with regards to when one would, hold on, excuse me for a moment. Yeah, I actually forgot what I was going to say. Right. um so okay, moving on. I can't remember what I was going to say regarding generation C. So okay, moving on. Then with the jhanas, we go through the absorption with regards to the 4 or up to the 8 absorptions that one could achieve. Now, these absorptions relate to the absorptions that one would experience with objects that we refer to as rupa vachara, and then the arupa vachara and objects of the arupa vachara realm as well. The rupa vachara objects, maintains, right, maintains an object that is based upon something tangible within the realm of materiality, right? Something tangible within the realm of materiality. Now understand this process proper, please. Now, when it comes to any absorption that we are able to cultivate within ourselves, up to the end of the Rupa Vachara jhanas, according up to the end of the Rupa Vachara jhanas. Now, within Abhidhamma, we speak about 5 jhanas. Within suttas, we speak about 4 jhanas. Today, we'll be speaking with regards to 4 jhanas because we are studying the suttas, right? We've spoken about this before. So with regards to the 4 jhanas that one would achieve within the Kamavachara plane, what we would have as the base object of practice is always to do with one of the 40 samatha meditation objects, or one of the 40 focus oriented meditation subjects, right? Which we went through last time. We went through certain examples of kasina meditations. We went through certain examples of the mandalas, the color meditations. We went through the examples, briefly sort of looked at sort of the corpses meditations, right? So these are all, as you can see now, this is all we look at an object, a corpse, a color, an element of nature, earth, fire, wind, or water, right? And then we develop the absorptions. But when it comes to, for example, the fine material sphere, right? Now I remember point of information for those of you who are really into it and who are really, and I feel that most of you all actually, I'm very happy to know that, I pride myself on having a crowd of people who are really, really into Dhamma. So thank you very much for actually motivating me in a way to sort of come, do these classes. Because if you are lackadaisical and, if you were just here because you had nothing to do at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, that would very much be demotivating to me. So thank you very much for being so much into Dhamma and trying to read into the text of Dhamma, which actually does motivate me to keep on going, right? Which actually does help me to keep on going as well, because as much as you feed off me in terms of energy, I feed off you as well, right? So we are really feeding off each other. That's a very weird way to put it, but that is the truth, right? So yes. So when we reach the Arupa realms, right? Now, when we reach the Arupa realms, right? Now, this is, if you would turn to page number 137 on the Piyatan translation, right? When we would reach the Arupa realms, we would have to let go of the attachment that we have in mind to any material object that we depend on, right? That we depend on. That is to say, right? That is to say with regards to the practice, right? Although we might develop even up to, for example, the fourth jhana, right? The fourth jhana, which is the last jhana or absorption within the text of Kama Vachara, we still have a very subtle, fine attachment, a very subtle, fine attachment towards the subject of meditation, whilst the main two jhana factors, or the factors of the absorption, being one-pointedness and equanimity. Right, one-pointedness and equanimity. Now, this is to say, now what does this mean? Why is jhana? Then one would this answer the question as to why samatha is so important if one wants to attain nibbana. Right, I know that some people are quite cocky regarding, this sort of debate, which is I feel like a sort of a useless exercise in a way, because it all depends on you. If you feel that you have a lot of defilements, raging defilements, in a way samatha would help you prop up, right? But even though you feel, sometimes we are people, we with our sansaric journey, the journeys that we have had in samsara, we do not have, or if our past births have been connected to lifetimes where we have been meditating, mindful, sort of associating the practice closely, there is a high chance that within this birth we will have those instincts. But not everyone is blessed in that way. But although you might not have such a past birth, right, we all have a significant amount of clinging, and that is set in, and that is for sure. Right? So with regards to flourish, why the Buddha or the doctrine speaks about or teaches these samatha objects with regards to the attainment of vipassana is only for the reason of targeting these fine clinging attachments that we have in our life, which hinders the development that we have to uh, to the vipassana, right? To the vipassana, and I think that is very clear to all of you, I think, right? Now, if you would look at page number 137, right? After the fourth, right? After the fourth, now you see the fifth liberation through the utter transcending of infinity of space, contemplating consciousness as infinite, one enters and dwells in the base of infinite consciousness, right? Infinite consciousness. Now you see, now we have stepped out, right? We have stepped out, right, of the physical realm into a sort of fine material realm. Let's go a page back to the first liberation, right? We see the first liberation is that of one with a physical form. Now, the first liberation is the stepping stone that we have towards jhana, is a stepping stone that one has towards jhana. Now, for those of you who do not know, with regards to the jhanas, we find that sometimes the mind goes into profound states of experience with regards to jhanas, that we experience absolute bliss and almost emptiness. Emptiness within inverted commas, emptiness compared to the world and the mind that we know. This emptiness is nothing compared to the true emptiness that we would experience in terms of vipassana, right? Always know that. That is why now, from a very infant stage of our meditation practice, I have been telling you, have an open mind. Do not bother comparing, right? Do not bother comparing. The only comparison that we need, the only comparison that we need, the only comparison that we need to be focusing on in any way, right, is the mind before meditation and the mind after meditation, right? And when we go through developing our meditation further, the mind during the meditation, right? These three stages. Why? In this comparing process, what we sort of teach ourselves, or what we teach the mind, is to attach itself onto the meditation, right? To attach itself onto the meditation. So that is why we do this sort of comparing. In terms of the jhana, this process of manasikara is taken up a notch, where we train ourselves or allow ourselves to master the ability, to master the ability, to master the ability of being able to go deeper, go into the jhana, come out of the jhana, to remain or sort of conjure the jhana whenever we want it to determine what time we come out of the jhana as well. To determine what time we come out of the jhana as well. Jhana. So now with regards to the letting go of this physical form, it is upon this subtle nature that we are able to flourish. Now, you would also notice that from the four meditations onwards, right? From the four meditations onwards, the attachment or the base of our usage of the metta, mudita, karuna, upekka is no longer required, right? Is no longer required. Why is this? Why is this? Because now I'm going into greater detail, even more than what is mentioned within the sutta, right? And that is because it very much corresponds with even our meditation practice that we do Saturday and Sunday, right? And we are going to cover everything. So we are not going to go into the bodhispashaka dhammas, or the limbs of awakening, because we have another day that I have designated for limbs of awakening. So we don't need to go through it today, right? Or within this sutta, which is within the sutta, it would be sort of bringing down the science of the Sambodjangas, right? So we will be doing the Sambodjangas on a later day. So we'll go to the path of practice with this specific sutta, right? With this specific sutta. Now, hold on. Okay. Now we let go of we do not work further with loving kindness, compassion, gladness, and equanimity. Why? Because at this point, now these are practices that have to link root itself, or sort of bloom from within, in a way that this is nothing to do with the outside world. This is something to do really based on what we use, or what we refer to as guna, right? Or qualities that we would have, right? This quality, how good of a person you are. This is the four Brahma Vihara Dhammas are very much a part of your guna, right? It is to develop the guna, the qualities that one would have, that we use the Brahma Vihara Dhammas as a reflection that we would practice, as a reflection that we would practice. Now, within the path, the Eightfold Noble Path, right? Linking the Eightfold Noble Path into Dhamma, right? Linking the Eightfold Noble Path into Dhamma. The Eightfold Noble Path arises in terms of Dhamma, through the Chittas and the Chaitasika Dhammas, right? Through the consciousnesses and the mental concomitants. Now, when for us to go or move further, in the path of practice, the factors of the Eightfold Noble Path, which are very much a part of our consciousness and existence, may I add. The Eightfold Noble Path. May you be a Buddhist, may you not be a Buddhist, may you believe in the Dhamma, may you not, may you be a person who has never heard of the Dhamma in one's life. Yet, the Eightfold Noble Path is very much like the red blood cells in all of our bodies, right? These blood cells, as they have a function, a feature, a manifestation, as they do it, these consciousnesses, as we are all devoid of our class, race, caste, all of these things, devoid of wherever we come from, we are able to go further, deeper into understanding ourselves in a way that we are able to now develop these qualities. It is very much a part of us. So during the time of attaining enlightenment, what happens in the term of the Eightfold Noble Path? We develop these qualities within the Chittas and the Chaitasikas, or rather more the Chetasikas, the mental factors, in a way that the Chetasikas all arise at that level, at that caliber, at one singular point of consciousness. At one singular point of consciousness. That is where then the perfections come in, right? How do we practice in a way, that we are able to flourish in terms of consciousness that would enable us to attain the eightfold no the attain the enlightenment, right? That is where the perfections come in, right? That is why a person who is aiming towards Buddhahood would never attain enlightenment as a plain arahant. That is why a person who is aiming for arahantship would never attain Buddhahood, because the levels, the standards that one would set for oneself is completely different. Completely different, right? Completely different. How is it different? Right now, with regards to perfections, there are three types of perfections. If you have not heard this before, please do write it down, or you can always Google it as well, right? Always Google it as well. So they say, if you don't know something, ask God. If God doesn't know something, ask Google. So so we can Google many of these things, which is incredible. So the three types of perfection is parami, which is perfection. Then we have upa parami, which is UPA parami. And then we have paramatta parami. Paramatta parami is the highest, most self-sacrificing level of perfection development known to mankind. Right? Known to mankind. Now, one would imagine, living in a country like what we all live in, the UK or the West. One would imagine, no, these are very much part of our day. No, it's not, right? When we sometimes help out, maybe a person who is not used to our culture, or a person who does not know our ways, when we sometimes even give them free food, they look at us the second time and they're like, you're giving me free food, right? It's surprising to them. Because why? That is not a level of practice that they are used to. right? Now we are fortunate in a way, that is the fortune that exists in arising, in living in the Baddha Kappa, in living in the Baddha Kappa, because this is a time where people are used to these things. Even a person who is completely ignorant in some deep place, in sort of deep disconnected place in America, knows the word karma, right? Knows the word karma, might not know what it truly is, but at least knows the word karma, they call it, or the karma. Why is that? That is a fortune of living in such a time, because it draws us in. It draws us in. Now look at mindfulness. Mindfulness Buddhism is a practice. I have met so many people who call themselves Christian Buddhists, Muslim Buddhists, Catholic Buddhists, right? Because why is that? In some way or another, the Buddhist practice has sort of leaked. Yes, whether they are doing it properly or not, that's an entirely different question and an answer altogether. But that does not matter. The fact that there is some sort of connection to the spirituality and the practice of spirituality offered within Buddhism, that is what matters, right? That is what matters. So within now developing these qualities of parami, that allows one to then assimilate oneself to the thinking patterns, notions, practices, and livelihood that comes with the development of the Eightfold Noble Path, right? Now, what are the paramis? What are the paramis that we have within Buddhism, right? The paramis, for example, the first parami being the dana parami, right? The dana parami and these such sorts of paramis are to do with, now, for example, you take the first element of parami, that is dana, generosity, right? The perfection of generosity lays foundation to our entire practice, right? What the Buddha says is, if one selfishly practices, for example, the absorptions, one would reach certain states of absorption that one would be easily proud of. But it would be short-lived, the Buddha says. It would be short-lived. Why? Because within this path of practice, what is most important in this practice is not the absorption, but it is a quality that is developed through the absorption, right? Within sila, the commentary goes on to emphasize on the importance of sila in different ways. Why we should have sila, or what sila or morality is, right? What morality is. One of the definitions given to morality, or one of the important, or the ways that the commentary signifies the importance of sila, is sila allows one to develop qualities. If one has sila yet does not have any qualities, right, that sila is absolutely useless, like a trunk of a tree that has already been hollowed out. It is, yes, it might seem strong, it might seem so sort of strong, and you can use it for many purposes, but when with one sort of blow it will crumble, right? It will break. That is what it is said with regards to the sila. It has to develop qualities. If you are developing sila and you are more difficult to live with than ever, please study a bit more Dhamma, learn a bit more, be more authentic to yourself and the world around us. This is not a path that should be led with any sort of selfishness in mind, with any sort of selfishness in mind. So, selfishness in mind. So, dana is or becomes the base of our practice. Now, look, listen to me very carefully. Dana is the base of our practice with regards to the perfections. Now, when we practice the 4 Brahmavihara Dhammas or Metta, Mudita, Karuna, Upekha, right? For those of you who are not used to the Pali, compassion, gladness, sympathetic compassion. Sorry, I'm not used to the English. Okay, hold on. Compassion, gladness, loving kindness, compassion, gladness, and equanimity, right? Now you see, within the jhanas, what have the jhanas taught us? How does one develop from the first jhana to the next? Through letting go. How does one develop from the 4th jhana to the arupa jhanas? Through letting go. How does one let or develop from one type of ayonisomanskara or unskillful effort to yonisomanskara, right effort, right attention, right? I'm sorry, wrong attention, right ayonisomanskara to yonisomanskara, through a sense of letting go to the conditions of mind, right? Through a sense of letting go to the conditions of mind. To the conditions of mind, right? Now you see why dana, generosity, is such an important foundation to our practice, right? We first start by giving something to the poor, supporting Buddhism, supporting the monks, all of these things, yes. But we go deeper to a practitioner who is really engaged in it, even as I have told you, even supporting one's wife, husband, children, parents, all of these falls under dana if you are able to think about it. One important fact within the development of paramis, it is said that just because you do something, now let's say I feed 100 people, or we feed 100 people together, but we do not determine that action as a parami. It is said that that action is now unable to, because we have not determined it in terms of a perfection, that action is unable to lead us towards nibbana. Now, what does that mean, right? How does that happen? Because now look here, what happens in the sense of determination is it reminds us in terms of practice about the aim or the objective that we try to reach, right? The aim or objective that we try to reach. When in the process of, or when we do develop an amount of develop an action which is good, and when we do not focus the energy of that action to enlightenment, we tend to use that for some other purpose in mind. The energy that we develop during the time of, let's say, offering, let's take the example of offering a beggar, a homeless person, food, right? If we do not think about the 3 characteristics, that offering is a mundane offering. If we think about or contemplate on the 3 characteristics during the time of offering, that offering becomes a supramundane or a low-kottara offering, we call it. An offering that now is able to support our attainment of nibbana. Why? Because it appears to the mind, it allows the mind to think about the 3 characteristics. What are the 3 characteristics? Impermanence, suffering, and non-self, right? Likewise, in the practice of parami, it is very important in a way to sort of contemplate, not contemplate, but to be aware of it in a way that it supports our practice. But there is a danger. What is the danger? With now in the practice of paramis, right, this is an argument which has been sort of within the world of scholastic Dhamma interpretation. This is an argument which has appeared for many decades, right, even centuries, right, that the actually not centuries, decades, right, that the paramis prolong our existence in samsara, because some would say that paramis prolong our existence within samsara because of the future mentality, right? Some would say no, the paramis are absolutely important, right, for the development of whatever, of enlightenment. I'm sorry, enlightenment. Now, what is, both of these people are telling the truth. They're both correct, right? The paramis would prolong our existence in samsara if we are always wishing, may I attain parami in the future, right? May I attain may I attain enlightenment in the future. Enlightenment is a present moment endeavor, is a present moment endeavor. Now, mentioning that every other time, the next time that we do come together to meditate, the next time that you meditate in your home, right? Try to see, if you are able to meditate. Before meditating, you are able to tell yourself, may I attain nibbana in this sitting. That has a lot of power, let me tell you. That has an immeasurable amount of power, far beyond what you thought existed within you. The present moment, but it is also mind that is very difficult to speak authentically. You might just say it, right? For some, you might even have a rush in your chest, a weird feeling in your chest when you think about it. Why? Because it is letting go of everything that you have in your life, right? It is the letting go, the preparedness to be able to let go of all clinging that you have in your life. But hold your horses. It doesn't have to be that. Remember that our attainments do come by in levels, right? Do come by in levels, because I feel, even as the mind, sometimes there's an unpreparedness. How am I going to, if I am a person who is the breadwinner, a feasible fear that could arise is, what if I attain nibbana? Does that mean that I will have the urgency to go to work tomorrow? If that doesn't happen, right? Right. So, right, in a way, do not be afraid. If you are going to work, you will be able to go to work, just as Yashodhara and all. It's so funny. Just as Yashodhara and all of these other princes and princesses, because sometimes with this sort of the theatrics of the mind, we cling on to, when we say Nibbana, we cling on to the right end of Nibbana, where you might think, if I don't ordain within 7 days, I will die. Right, which is not true, right, which is not true. This which is not true. So please, when you tell yourself, let may I be able to attain Nibbana in this sitting, know the meaning of it in a way that you are able to attain Nibbana, Sotapannahood, Sakadagami, Anagami, even Arahanthood if you could. But know that these things do come in, do not fear it. It will work itself out. It will work itself out. So don't fear the practice or that attainment. Love yourself. Now, something that I used to do when I was new to the forest. The forest is a scary place sometimes. I know of monks who are grown as men, right? 35, 40-year-old men who have run out of the forest screaming in the middle of the night, right? The forest is not an easy place to live in, especially, for example, if you're living in a place like, there are certain places where you don't have walls, you only have 3 walls, right? And thick jungle. 3 walls and thick jungle, and you have different snakes coming. Now, even if you even in our dwellings, when we open the door in the morning, there would be, for sure, there would be a snake coiled up at the corner of the door. At the corner of the door, he would be coiled up and nice. Or there would be a snake under the carpet. If it's a cloth carpet, there would be a snake under the carpet for sure, at the corner of the door or under the carpet, right? And we walk on top of these snakes. They are of no harm. There are these gigantic thick snakes who would be sort of just who would just share the walking path with us, right? So for a person who is new to the forest, right, there's a lot of anxiety, right? Anxiety. And also, for example, now in a monastery in Kurunagala in Sri Lanka has the biggest breed of tarantulas in the entire planet, right? We have the biggest tarantulas in the world in the Kurunagala forest in Sri Lanka. Now, when I read that, when I was in the Kurunagala forest. That was of no help. That was of no help to read that article, right? And spiders, oh my gosh, arachnophobia is a real thing for me, I think, right? It's just the fear of the fear of spiders and their creepy crawly legs, right? And with all of this, right? So when I was new to the forest as a a very, very, very young monk, well, not very young, come on, I'm still young, but but as a young monk, not used to the life in a forest, so there would be this. So at night, because our meditations would finish at the in the night at around 9 o'clock, and then we would usually make it a point to go to. We had a wonderful pagoda in the old monastery being the ancient ironwood forest, which has been a monastery for more than 1,000 years, where even arahants have lived in. We have a beautiful pagoda that we like to go and sort of meditate and sort of do our lamp offerings. Beautiful, all the monks come together at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and they find a bottle of oil, they find a bottle of coconut oil from somewhere, and the devotees usually would offer a lot of coconut oil to the monastery, so we would light these lamps and meditate. It's a beautiful setting, beautiful, absolutely. And we would do all of this, and then we would have to walk back to our kutis at around 11 or 12 in the night, right? And then this is ancient ironwood forest. We have so much of insects and animals and creepy crawlies and all of these things. So and as a young monk, you don't have like a super bright flashlight. You have like a basic one that you would get off the storeroom, right? So I found that I was so anxious when I would walk through the monastery. I was like, at one point I was like, okay, this is not going to happen, right? And I stood myself in the position, right? And I was just standing up. I off my torch, and I just stood there. I had increasing palpitations, I was like weirded out. I was like, of course, very, very scared for a bit. And I've just observed that, eyes open. And at just one point, it all just disappeared. Because I was waiting for something bad to happen, And at that moment, I realized nothing is going to happen. The fear just disappeared. And then I would be able to walk through the forest even without a flashlight, through the light of the moon, right? And this is in a way, these experiences that one would have, which one would have, are absolutely beautiful in terms of discovering parts of yourself and breaking down these different parts. Now, with all of that said, with the paramis and all of that, you have got a barrage of information, right? We are going to move forward, right? move forward. So we go through the practice of the four Brahma Viharis: loving kindness, gladness, compassion, loving kindness, compassion, gladness, and equanimity, right? Through the doctrine of the Buddha. But the doctrine of Buddha, this practice would lead to the attainment or the ability for one to attain the jhanas, the absorptions. And when one attains to the jhanas, the absorptions, what happens? Then through the attainment of jhana, through the attainment of these absorptions, right, one cultivates, or one is able to now water the plants within, the plants of enlightenment within, what? The factors of awakening within oneself. Now, these factors are also mental concomitants. These factors are also mental concomitants. Let's look at the factors. Sati, right? Sati is a Sati Chaitasika, right? Dhamma is investigation, the wisdom Chaitasika, right? Effort, which is the Birya or effort Chaitasika. Zest, or this zest, this happiness that we have. Zest is particularly different, right? We'll come to that later. But zest, which is the Piti Chaitasika or the zest Chaitasika. Tranquility, Pasaddi, is a Pasaddi Chaitasika. And then concentration, Samadhi, is the Samadhi that arises, right? The one-pointedness that arises. Now look at this. Now these are consciousnesses which exist within you. So next time that you think, I can't meditate, think of this. Think of what we have studied today. You have what it takes to meditate built right into you by nature of your birth, right? By nature of your birth. You can meditate. We all can meditate. We just need to, like we sort of water our plants, water our flowers. We need to know how to take care of ourselves. We need to know how to take care of ourselves. That is the most important part. And then we have equanimity, which is Upekkha Chaitasika. These are all factors existent within you, right? Now, with the arising of the Chaitasikas, please turn to page number 14142, please. Right? With the awakening of these seven awakening factors, right? What do we see? Now let's look at the first one. Supported by seclusion, by the fading away of lust, by the cessation of suffering, and ripens in the letting go of defilements. What is this? Right? Supported by seclusion. Where do you live? Are you living a life which is too busy to focus yourself on Dhamma? How many things in your life is supportive towards the attainment of Nibbana? How many things in your life is supportive? How many people in your life actually supports you in your attainment of the finer states of consciousness? Right? This is what is being asked. Rather, what I'm asking you through what is mentioned in the sutta. If you see, right, each of these liberating factors or the awakening factors goes supported by seclusion. Where is the body? Is it living in a very busy sort of household? Is it living in a place with people, associating people who will not support your mindful attainments and all of these things? That is a question that you must ask, right? By the fading away of lust, the fading away of lust comes through the dispassion, the attachment that we would usually have to things that cause us suffering, the attachment to things that we have, the overbearing attachment and commitment that we have towards things that wither away due to the conditioning intrinsically involved in that, right? In that phenomena, right? The viraga or the dissolution. This is not speaking with regards specific to sexual lust. This is talking with regards to greed, attachment, right? That we have to these things, mine, this is mine, that kind of mentality, right? The dispassion in a way where you are able to enjoy the cup. Ajahn Brahm uses the example of the cup, but just keep it down. Keep it down and pick it up when you want to have your sip of water. That is it. It's not going to run away. It's not going to run away. That is what we are able to enjoy the things, enjoy the money that you have, go on a vacation, but be all right when you can't afford a vacation as well, right? When you now, most of us have come, canceled our vacations because of the corona situation. Be all right with that. Probably you're going to be saving up a bit because you don't know where your jobs will end up at the end of the year. Be all right with that. Be able to face that. That is what we are talking about here. That is what I love about this Dhamma. It is not in a world which is like, which is absolutely like divine. No, this is very practical, right? Be all right with the fact that you might have to lose certain things, or you might have to make sacrifices. What is next? By the cessation of suffering. What is the cessation of suffering? The cessation of suffering arises through the contemplation of the arising, processing, and the passing away of the aggregates of clinging, rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, vijnana, through which the cessation of suffering happens. It also arises in a similar fashion, if we are able to put it on to more the cessation route, right? Is the understanding that each and every conditioned phenomena arises and passes away according to the Four Noble Truths. And it is the attachment that we have to these phenomena which helps, or which forms the base of self in our existence. The most, when I was at the London Buddhist Vihara, I spoke of this when we were teaching or discussing about the Four Noble Truths. I remember an example that came to my mind: a bottomless bucket, right? A bottomless bucket. What we have done to ourselves is we have a bucket in our mind and we throw everything into it. We chuck everything, the good experiences, the bad, everything into this bucket. That sort of formulates who you are as a person, the life that you've lived, and conditions your present and your future. In the Four Noble Truths, that bucket, we realize, does not have a bottom. Why? The bottom does not exist because the clinging is no longer there, right? The clinging to self, when the clinging to self is understood and let go of, or you are in the process of letting go, you're all right. Some of our kids, something that I see, kids are very, very particular regarding certain things in a very unnecessary way. Sometimes they're too ashamed. Like, for example, when we were all young, we would not like to speak our mind, right? We would listen. Why? Insecure. Why are we insecure? Because we are not confident enough. Why are we not confident enough? Because we think, of course, that we might lose our friends, all of it. Now, as adults, now look at me. As a child, I did not even speak. Now you can't shut me up. now, now you'll have a hard time shutting me up. And that is the thing with all of you as well, because now as adults, we understand to a certain, we have more grounding, we have more strength in a way, to sort of do something that is able to benefit us. But in terms of nibbana, we understand this bucket, this bottomless pit. So even if you do make a mistake, you don't cling on to it. You learn from it, you move on. That's it. Yeah, you learn from it and you move on. That is it. That bottomless pit example is something that I absolutely love, right? That is what it points towards, from the cessation of suffering, and ripens in the letting go. Ripens, the only way we let go is through wisdom. Letting go is only done through wisdom. How? Because it is when you are finally aware of what you are letting go of, you will let go. And when you know through your wisdom where you are going to reach through your letting go, you are able to go deeper into the letting go process in a way that you finally stop fighting, fighting in a way, fighting for things that you lose, fighting for things that cause you suffering and anguish in your mind. Now remember, even if you are not a person who's meditating towards nirvana, or you're not associating the Dhamma towards nirvana, you just want to be a spiritual Buddhist, maybe you just want to be a good person, maybe you just want to have some sort of peace in your life, maybe, right? All of that would happen, right? This is so practical to each and every one of your needs. You are with an abusive partner, you do not have the strength to let go and move on and give yourself a happy life because you think that you do not deserve it, or you think that you will never find love in your life. Let go. Now this is what we are talking about. This is very practical to each and every. It empowers us. This empowerment that we receive through the Dhamma is just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Why? Because it gives us such an ability to trust in ourselves in a way that we also understand. With the wisdom, we understand the way the world works. Things come and go, but things always do come, right? Things always do come. Opportunities come and go, but opportunities always do come to one who is working hard, right? So we are able to get ourselves even out of the toxic situation that we live in. Then moving on downwards, right? Now, then we come through all of these processes that we go through in terms of greed, in terms of um, in terms of whatever, in terms of for example, in terms of the four Brahma Viharas, we go through the process of understanding the Brahma Viharas, not understanding, no, that's the wrong word to use, of the process allowing for the cultivation of the Sambojjhangas through the specs of the Brahma Viharas. Through loving kindness, one goes within the path in a way that one explores one significant part of the Sambojjhangas, moving forward through gladness, compassion, equanimity. One is able to go deeper into sort of exploring other parts of the Brahma Viharas, and that is what we are focusing on, right? That is what we are focusing on. Now that is what. Now then what happens? Now when we attain the arupa jhanas, with the power that we develop in our mind with regards to the absorptions, what happens with the subduing of mind? That is why the Brahma Viharas are mentioned here, right? The subduing of mind allows one to develop on these faculties, a loving one. That is now when we bring out the practice of insight vipassana through the contemplation of the three characteristics through the contemplation of the three characteristics, which is absolutely pivotal to transgressing beyond the rupa vachara absorptions and the arupa vachara absorptions to the uh, attainments of insight meditation. Now it was a topic of discussion, not a topic of discussion, that would be very to just overstate it. There was a very popular monk who actually maybe Mahankadavala Sudassana, Venerable Mahankadavala Sudassana, once in one of his talks spoke about the Rupa Vachra jhanas and the Rupa Vachra plane, mentioning that there is a Rupa that exists of a certain caliber, a Rupa that exists within the fine material plane. This created, I remember this was a good 8 years ago. or maybe 7 or 6 years ago. This created a lot of sort of, because Mahankadawala Sudassana Thero was a respected sort of a Samanera monk in the country who was preaching a lot of Dhamma. So this created a lot of talk because a lot of forest monks also listened to Venerable Mahankadawala Sudassana. And it was a very stifling fact that he had mentioned. So much so that Venerable Aryadhamma, who never goes into the Buddhist channel, now in Aryadhamma, who never goes into the Buddhist channel, accepted an invitation from the Buddhist channel to elucidate on the fact of what was said. And and Venerable Aryadhamma, through his personal practice, now Venerable Aryadhamma has surely gone into the Arupa states. There is no doubt about it, right? With regards to his meditation practice, it's amazing. His meditation practice, so much so, me living in PAOK and PAOK Searo, being Venerable Aryadhamma's teacher, meditation guru, right, speaks about Venerable Aryadhamma. There were 2 monks who were taught the Patthana technique of meditation by the PAOK tradition, and one monk lost it completely, where it was a bit too much for him to handle, because within the Patthana there are so many, the topic is so dense. The topic is so dense that there's so much of contemplation that one should go through, right? Contemplation that one must go through. We'll talk about these contemplation techniques, like these dense contemplation techniques, to give you an idea later on. But obviously, I am not able to take you far beyond, but I know what the sort of the scheme is, which I can sort of, which we can discuss, right? So Venerable Aryadhamma was the second student, and PAOK Sayadaw was very, very, very hesitant to teach Venerable Aryadhamma this technique of meditation. But Venerable Aryadhamma absolutely begged Venerable PAOK Sayadaw to teach him this technique, and he did. And Venerable Aryadhamma was the only person who was able to really succeed in the subject under the PAOK tradition, right? So Venerable Nauni Aryadhamma was a fantastic meditator, and he has surely. So what he said was, there is no, although now, for example, in the English translation, we spoke of fine material, right? Fine material. Now, fine material, it should sort of, you would imagine this, there might be a very fine thing. No. There is no rupa existent within the arupa plane. That is the point to which Venerable Nauni Aryadhamma was preaching to, with his personal experience of practice and with his personal understanding of the Dhamma. And to those of you who know him, he is a walking encyclopedia, right? So I would like to mention that is what this sutta is all about, how we develop into the jhanas. Through the jhanas, how do we develop our practice in a way that we would go deeper into or progress our practice in a way that we now are able to use metta, mudita, karuna, upekkha to aid the practice of vipassana, right? There are many jhanas that we can talk about. To those of you who know, there are 1,000 techniques of attaining or leading to nibbana, out of which there are 500 odd metta jhanas in the Theravada doctrine. 500 different approaches to metta jhanas or loving kindness jhanas. We will talk about these one day when the time is right. But remember, it is very important, this practice of metta, mudita, karuna, upekkha, if not all at the same time, at least having one practice. Leave aside metta, right? Leave aside upekkha. right? Don't go to upekka in a way that you would go into metta, because upekka requires a very subtle mind to tap into. But know the notions of upekka and use those notions of upekka that you can, but meditatively start off with something like loving kindness and give yourself a love yourself. Do not fall. Sometimes living in this world, my darlings, is very stressful, right? And the more that we try to sacrifice and help another person, we sometimes realize again and again, sometimes we realize it is as if it's not worth it. It is worth it. It is worth it. Why is it worth it? Because it is bigger than that person that you were trying to help. It is even bigger than you, right? It is even bigger than you, right? Our practice of metta goes so much further than even ourselves, right? So it is always worth it. If we narrow it down to just my practice and this other person that I'm trying to help, you might give it up very fast. Do not narrow it down. Metta, as long as metta, karuna, mudita, upekha appear and is practiced in this world, there will be the ability of enlightenment and the Dhamma to prevail and flourish. The moment that these four Dhammas are taken out of this world, we will lose all humanity and be worse than animals, be absolutely worse than animals. A mother would not have affection for one's child. A child would not have affection to one's mother. A younger person will not have affection to or respect to one who is senior, and a senior one would not even want to understand or relate to one who is younger. Our social dynamic will fall into absolute chaos, and I'm sure it would all end up in a whole huge war that will entirely kill each and every one of us. Metta, mudita, karuna, upekka are the foundation pillars of our society, and it should remain so. Compassion, empathy, kindness, all of these good factors, as much as it remains to be the foundation pillar of our society, it should be the foundation pillar of our consciousness. Of our consciousness. People are ignorant, and us thinking that people would think or would behave in ways that are not ignorant is a idiocy on our part, right? If human conditioning is to behave and act within the six roots of human conditioning: greed, hatred, delusion, non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, we understand that people are good, or people are capable of good as well as bad. You can't expect to have a relationship with a person and not expect that person to do something which does not hurt you. That person will always hurt you. We mostly hurt the people that we mostly love. That is a condition of the world that we live in. So do not be disheartened disheartened by any of this. Open your eyes in a way that you strengthen your faculty, strengthen your understanding of the world, in a way that you now realize and understand that these are very much parts and parcels, not to be frazzled in any way, but face it, you know but face it. A little bit of excitement, these guys who came from wherever they did come today, brought a bit of excitement into our lives. And I very much needed it. It has been such a dull day today, so I very much needed it. So not at all worried about that. These are just things that brings us a bit of energy. That so next time we are going to have a password or something like that. We had to figure, it's going to be complicated developing a password each and every time, but of course, we just get better every day. That's it, right? So I hope that all of you sort of develop metta. And something that you absolutely have to do is forgive someone. I think that could really kickstart. If there is someone that you absolutely hate, if there is someone that you absolutely think that you have a very difficult time forgiving, a partner who you've divorced, a husband or wife that you've divorced, or a partner that has hurt you or whatnot, or person, whatever, if it does not bring you harm, forgive that person. If it is a friend who has sort of broken your trust or whatnot, um, to hell with your trust. How many times have you broken your trust towards yourself? How many times have you gone on a diet and then broken that? Probably almost every week, right? So to hell with your trust, and get a hold of yourself. Do not let the hindrances manipulate and govern your existence in this world, and allow yourself to develop day by day. Forgive a person, do something good for the world in a way that you make that you feel that you have been a part of what is beautiful in this world, and that will give you so much of goodness to your heart. And that is what we are aiming for, and that is what the practice is all about as well. So I wish you, do you have any questions that you would like to ask? Any questions that you would like to ask before we wrap up? Right. I do have to sort of thank this one devotee. She does not, the family does not participate in the talks, but they do listen or follow up with all the talks online. And so she has offered a very good mic to the Dhamma Center. And so for the meditations that we would do and all of that, so we have high quality sound that money can afford now. Which is absolutely amazing. So thank you very much, Ajini and the whole family, for doing this for the Dhamma Center, and for all of you as well. We share all the merits that we sort of accrue with your whole family. So thank you very much, and I'll see you all tomorrow for the Abhidhamma class. And I hope you have a pleasant rest of the evening. Take care and goodbye. Yeah, all the best.